Today, we are going to dig into one of the most iconic, but maybe most misunderstood stories ever told, the journey of the Magi. What we're going to see is how their ancient quest is actually a timeless guide for anyone out there who's seeking something more. So, let's dive in. You know who I'm talking about. You see them every single Christmas, these solemn, regal figures kneeling beside a manger. But who were they really? And what if the story we all think we know isn't quite the whole picture?
To get to the real story here, we have to look past the classic Christmas card image and really dig into what the text actually tells us. And it gets pretty interesting.
Okay, so here's where things start to diverge. Popular tradition gives us 3 kings, right? We even have names for them, Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar, visiting a newborn in a stable. But the biblical account is actually way more mysterious. It talks about an unknown number of magi, think wise men, astrologers, scholars, who found a child, not a newborn, in a house, not a manger.
And get this was not some quick weekend trip. The timeline suggested by the text implies a journey that could have taken well over a year. A year! This wasn't just a casual visit. This was a long, determined, and incredibly costly pilgrimage.
I mean, a journey like that takes immense courage. It really makes you stop and think about what it truly costs to follow a call. Or, in their case, to follow a star.
Think about the price they actually paid. They left their jobs, their families, their entire world behind. This quest would have cost a fortune in both time and resources, and it probably made them look completely crazy to their peers. I mean, who just abandons everything to follow a light in the sky? And this is the key right here. Their journey shows us that true seeking doesn't wait for all the details to be worked out. It doesn't wait for certainty. It starts with an internal nudge, an impulse of faith that just pushes you forward, with absolutely no guarantees. You know, this beautifully illustrates a timeless spiritual principle, captured perfectly by the prophet Jeremiah. Now, the Magi might not have known this specific promise, but they absolutely lived it out. They sought with everything they had. But their journey takes a pretty dramatic turn when they finally arrive in Jerusalem. It turns out, seeking truth often leads to a direct confrontation with power. So, when the Magi show up in the capital and start asking around, "Hey, where is the one who has been born King of the Jews?" it sends shockwaves through the royal court. King Herod, a guy completely obsessed with his own power, isn't excited. He's deeply disturbed. He's threatened. And here we see this massive irony. The Magi, these total outsiders from a foreign land, gave up everything to find this new king. Meanwhile, Herod and the religious leaders, the insiders who knew the prophecies by heart, they did nothing. They were far more interested in protecting their own little kingdoms than in welcoming gods. You know, this whole story forces us to ask some tough questions of ourselves. Are we watching? Are we actually looking for signs of something new, something real in our own lives? Are we paying attention to those little things that stir our hearts? Or are we just too busy, too distracted, protecting our own status quo? And ultimately, are we ready? Are we ready for the change that a true encounter will inevitably bring into our lives? So when the Magi finally find the child, their long, long journey ends in this profound act of worship, which is perfectly symbolized by their famous gifts. And these weren't just random presents, no way. Each one was packed with meaning. Gold? That's a gift for a king. Frankincense was a special incense you'd use in the worship of a god. And myrrh? Well, myrrh was an embalming spice. It pointed to the suffering and sacrifice that was to come. It's like they somehow saw the whole story. What's so crucial to understand is that they didn't bring what was convenient or left over. This wasn't some last-minute shopping trip. They brought their very best. Their gifts were a costly, deeply meaningful, and honest expression of their worship. But the story doesn't end with them kneeling in worship. It can't, because a true encounter always changes you. It changes the path you take from that moment on. Before they found Jesus, the Magi were still operating on the world's logic. I mean, where do you find a king? In a palace, of course. That's why they went to Herod first. It just made sense. But after their encounter, everything changed. That old logic went right out the window. They were warned in a dream, and so they deliberately avoided the center of power. They went home by a completely different route. Their entire direction shifted. And that change of direction is the perfect physical symbol of a deeper spiritual truth. As the Apostle Paul wrote, an encounter with the divine makes you a new creation. You just can't go back the same way you came. So as we start to wrap this up, the story of the Magi really invites us to ask ourselves,
what can we bring on our own journey of seeking?
The prophet Micah suggests that the most valuable offerings aren't material things at all. The real gifts are a just life, a merciful heart, and a humble walk with God. It's not really about what you have, it's about who you're becoming.
And that leaves us with one last powerful question to think about. The Magi brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh. But what if, at the end of our own long journey, the greatest gift that's truly required is you?